The wagon wheel hit a rock that shouldn't have been in the middle of the mountain trail, and 16-year-old Lily Crawford felt the world tilt violently. She screamed as the wagon lurched sideways, gravity and momentum conspiring to send it tumbling down the steep embankment. Her body slammed against the wooden side, then against the opposite wall, then against something sharp that tore into her leg with a pain so intense she nearly lost consciousness. When the wagon finally stopped rolling and came to rest on its side at the bottom of a ravine, Lily was trapped beneath one of the benches, her left leg pinned at an unnatural angle. Blood soaked through her dress, so much blood, and the driver, Mr. Talbot, who had agreed to transport her west for $5, was gone. She could hear his horse's hooves scrambling up the embankment, could hear him cursing about his ruined wagon, and then nothing. He'd left her. Night was falling. Lily was trapped, bleeding, and alone in the wilderness. At nearly 300 pounds, she couldn't shift the heavy bench pinning her, couldn't crawl out of the wreckage. Pain radiated from her leg in waves that made her vision blur and her stomach heave. She was going to die here, she thought with numb certainty. Alone and unmourned, exactly as everyone back home had predicted. "Is someone there?" A voice called from above, deep and cautious. "I heard the crash." "Help!" Lily managed to croak. "Please help me." A figure appeared at the top of the ravine, silhouetted against the darkening sky. Even from this distance, Lily could see he was large, well over 6 feet tall, with broad shoulders and a powerful build. He descended the steep slope with the confidence of someone completely at home in rough terrain. And as he drew closer, Lily could make out more details. He was perhaps in his mid-30s, with dark hair, a weathered face marked by scars, and eyes that assessed the situation with practiced efficiency. "Jesus," the man muttered, taking in the overturned wagon and Lily's trapped form. "How long have you been here?" "I don't know," Lily said, her voice shaking. "Maybe an hour? The driver left me." The man's jaw clenched with anger, but his voice remained calm. "I'm going to get you out, but first I need to see how badly you're hurt. Can you move your arms?" Lily demonstrated that she could. The man, she could see now that he wore the simple clothes of a frontiersman, practical and well-worn, moved around the wagon, assessing the situation. He finally positioned himself near where Lily's leg was pinned. "I need to examine your leg," he said bluntly. "It's trapped at a bad angle, and there's a lot of blood. I'm going to need you to spread your legs so I can see the injury properly and figure out how to get you out without making things worse." Under different circumstances, Lily might have been mortified by such a command, but pain and fear overwhelmed any sense of modesty. "Okay," she whispered. The man carefully pushed aside the fabric of her dress, already torn and blood-soaked, and examined her leg with hands that were surprisingly gentle despite their obvious strength. His expression grew grim. "Your leg is broken," he said. "Badly, and there's a deep laceration that's bleeding heavily. I'm going to have to splint it right here before we move you, or you could do permanent damage. This is going to hurt. A lot. Do you understand?" Lily nodded, tears streaming down her face. "What's your name?" the man asked, even as he began pulling supplies from a pack at his belt. Lily Crawford." "I'm Ethan Stone. I'm a doctor, Lily. Was a doctor anyway during the war. I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to fix this. But you need to be brave for me. Can you do that?" "I'll try," Lily said. What followed was the most excruciating 30 minutes of Lily's life. Ethan worked with swift efficiency, but even his skilled hands couldn't make the process painless. He cleaned the wound. She screamed. He realigned the bone. She nearly passed out. He splinted the leg with branches and strips torn from his own shirt. She bit down on a leather strap he'd given her to keep from breaking her teeth with the force of her clenching jaw. Through it all, Ethan talked to her in a steady, calm voice. He told her about the mountains, about the weather patterns, about anything and everything to distract her from the pain. And not once, not even once, did he comment on her size, show disgust at her body, or make her feel like her weight was making his job harder. When the leg was finally splinted, Ethan lifted the bench, pinning her with a strength that seemed almost superhuman. Then he scooped Lily up in his arms, all 300 pounds of her, and carried her up the steep ravine as if she weighed nothing at all. His breathing grew labored and sweat beaded on his forehead, but he never faltered, never complained, never made Lily feel like a burden. At the top of the ravine, a horse waited, a massive beast that looked strong enough to carry both of them. Ethan settled Lily as gently as possible onto the saddle, then swung up behind her, his arms coming around to support her against his broad chest. "My cabin is about 2 miles from here," he said. "Try to stay conscious if you can. Talk to me. Tell me about yourself." So Lily, fighting through waves of pain and nausea, told him. She'd been living with her uncle's family after her parents died, but they'd made it clear she was a burden they couldn't afford to keep. Too fat, too slow, eating too much. Her uncle had finally paid a driver to take her west to Denver, where her father's sister supposedly lived. Lily didn't even know if the aunt existed. She'd never met her, but any place was better than staying where she wasn't wanted. "The driver charged $5, Lily said, her voice growing weaker. "And he left me to die in that ravine, said it wasn't worth his time to try to save me." Ethan's arms tightened around her. "The driver's a coward and a bastard, and you're going to survive, Lily. I promise you that." Ethan's cabin appeared through the trees, a substantial log structure with a stone chimney and a covered porch. He carried Lily inside and laid her on a bed, then immediately set to work tending to her injuries more thoroughly. He cleaned the wound again, stitched it closed with neat, practiced sutures, and rebandaged both the laceration and the fracture. "You're going to have to stay off this leg for at least 6 weeks, he said when he was finally done. "Maybe longer. The fracture was bad, and if you put weight on it too soon, it won't heal right. You might limp for the rest of your life even with proper care. Without it, you'd lose the leg entirely or worse." "I can't stay here for 6 weeks, Lily protested weakly. "I need to get to Denver." "You're not going anywhere for a long while," Ethan interrupted firmly. "And before you argue, consider the alternatives. You can stay here where you'll be safe and cared for while you heal. Or I can take you to the nearest town where you'll be put in a boarding house you can't afford with no one to help you and where your leg will almost certainly heal wrong or become infected. Those are your choices, Lily. Choose wisely." Put that way, there really was no choice at all. "I'll stay," Lily whispered. "Thank you. I know I'm a burden, and I'm sorry." "Stop," Ethan said, his voice sharp. Then, more gently, "You're not a burden. You're an injured person who needs help. There's a difference. Now rest. You've been through hell today, and your body needs sleep to heal." Over the following days and weeks, Lily discovered that Ethan Stone was unlike any man she'd ever encountered. He was gruff and solitary by nature, clearly more comfortable with silence than conversation, but he was also unfailingly kind and patient with her. He helped her with tasks that should have been embarrassing, using the chamber pot, bathing, dressing, but he did so with such clinical detachment that Lily gradually stopped feeling ashamed. He was also an excellent cook and made sure she ate well to aid her healing. "You need good food to recover," he said when she tried to eat smaller portions out of habit. "Your body is repairing broken bone and torn tissue. That takes energy. Eat, Lily. Don't make me order you." As Lily's leg began to heal and she could move around the cabin more, she started helping with household tasks as much as she was able. She discovered she had a talent for organization and began putting Ethan's rather chaotic living space in order. She mended his clothes, which had obviously been neglected for years. She cooked when she was able, freeing him to spend more time on other necessary work. And gradually, they began to talk, really talk. Ethan told her about his past in careful, measured pieces. He'd been a battlefield surgeon during the war, one of the best, known for his ability to save men other doctors had written off. After the war, he'd returned home to his wife and young son, planning to build a practice in a civilized town. But his wife and son had contracted fever while he was gone. By the time Ethan made it home, they were already dead. The guilt and grief had been overwhelming. He'd been saving strangers on battlefields while his own family died without him. He couldn't bear to stay in civilization, couldn't face the memories. So he'd come to the mountains 5 years ago and carved out a solitary existence, helping the occasional injured trapper or lost traveler, but mostly just trying to exist with his guilt. "Finding you in that ravine," Ethan said one evening as they sat by the fire, "it was like being given a second chance, a chance to save someone when I couldn't save the people who mattered most. Does that make sense?" "Yes," Lily said quietly, "and finding you saved me too. Not just from dying in that ravine, but from thinking I was worthless. You've treated me with more respect and kindness in these few weeks than my own family did in years. You've made me feel like I matter." Ethan's expression softened. "You do matter, Lily. Whatever your family told you, whatever you've been made to believe about yourself because of your size, it's wrong. You're intelligent, capable, resilient, and kind. Those are the things that define your worth, not what you look like or how much you weigh." As the weeks turned into months, Lily's leg healed remarkably well thanks to Ethan's expert care. She would always have a slight limp, as he'd warned, but she could walk and even help with many of the physical tasks around the cabin. More than that, she had found something she'd never expected to find: a sense of belonging, a place where she was valued for who she was rather than judged for what she looked like. She had also, though she tried not to think about it too much, fallen completely in love with Ethan Stone. How could she not? He had saved her life, cared for her with such patience and skill, treated her with more respect than anyone ever had. He was strong and capable, but also deeply wounded, carrying guilt and grief that she understood all too well. They fit together in a way that made sense to Lily, even if she knew it was probably foolish to hope he might feel the same. The crisis came 4 months after Lily's arrival, when 3 men rode up to the cabin, a deputy from the nearest town and 2 rough-looking hired hands. The deputy called out for Ethan to show himself. Ethan emerged onto the porch, his shotgun held casually but ready. "What do you want, deputy?" "We're looking for a girl," the deputy said. "Runaway indentured servant from the Henderson Ranch. About 16 years old, dark hair, very heavy set. Have you seen anyone matching that description?" Lily, watching from inside the cabin, felt her blood run cold. The Henderson Ranch, that was where Mr. Talbot had been supposed to take her before he'd agreed to divert to Denver for extra money. Someone must have reported her missing and assumed she'd run away rather than been abandoned. "I've got a girl here," Ethan said carefully, "but she's not an indentured servant. She was in a wagon accident. I've been treating her injuries." "That's her," one of the hired hands said. "Henderson's been looking for her for months. She owes 3 years of service to pay off her family's debts." Lily felt panic rising. She'd never heard anything about indentured service or debts. Her uncle must have sold her, literally sold her, to the Henderson Ranch and pocketed the money. And now they wanted to collect their property. "She's not going anywhere," Ethan said, his voice dropping to something dangerous. "Especially not with you three. Now get off my property." "You're harboring someone else's property," the deputy warned. "That's a crime. Hand her over or—" The shotgun came up, pointing directly at the deputy's chest. "Or what? You'll shoot me for giving medical care to an injured girl? For keeping her from being worked to death by men who think of her as property? I don't think so. Now, I'm going to say this one more time. Get off my property." The 3 men exchanged glances, clearly reconsidering their approach. Ethan Stone might be a solitary mountain man, but he was also a crack shot and clearly not someone to trifle with. They retreated, but not before the deputy warned, "This isn't over, Stone. Henderson has legal papers. He'll be back with more men." After they left, Ethan came inside to find Lily crying. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know my uncle had sold me into servitude. I thought he was just sending me to Denver. And now I've put you in danger." "Stop," Ethan said, pulling her into his arms. "This isn't your fault. Your uncle is a bastard who sold his own niece, and Henderson is trying to claim someone who was never legally his to begin with. But Lily, I need to know the truth. Did you sign any papers? Make any agreements?" "No," Lily said firmly. "I never signed anything. I never agreed to any servitude. My uncle just put me in that wagon and told me I was going west." "Then there are no legal papers, no matter what Henderson claims," Ethan said. "He can't force you into service without your consent or a legitimate contract. You're free, Lily, and I'll make sure you stay that way." Henderson and his men did return a week later with a forged contract claiming Lily had agreed to 3 years of service. But Ethan had anticipated this and had already contacted a lawyer in the territorial capital, who confirmed that without Lily's actual signature and without proof that she'd received compensation for the contract, it was invalid. When Henderson tried to take Lily by force, Ethan stood in the doorway of the cabin with his shotgun and said clearly, "Lily Crawford is under my protection. She's healing from serious injuries I treated. And as of this morning, she's my wife. So if you want to try to take her, you'll have to go through me. And I promise you, Henderson, that's not a fight you're going to win." The wife part was news to Lily, but she stood beside Ethan and confirmed it. "It's true. We were married by Reverend Thompson in Carson's Mill last week." This was a lie, but a necessary one, and Ethan had already arranged for the Reverend to backdate the marriage certificate if anyone checked. Faced with a potentially deadly confrontation and the knowledge that Lily was supposedly married, which would give Ethan legal authority over her that would override any alleged servant contract, Henderson retreated. But as he left, he turned back and said viciously, "You're protecting a thief and a liar, Stone. Don't come crying to me when you figure out what she really is." After they left, Lily turned to Ethan with wide eyes. What did he mean? Ethan shook his head. Probably just trying to plant doubt. Unless there's something you haven't told me? Lily hesitated, then took a deep breath. There is something, but it's not what you think. The truth is, my name isn't really Lily Crawford. It's Lily Brennan. I changed it because I was afraid my uncle would find me. And Henderson was right about one thing: I am a thief, but not the way he means. She proceeded to tell Ethan the whole truth. Back home, she'd discovered that Henderson's son had been stealing from local farms, small items at first, then larger thefts. Lily had witnessed one of the thefts and had confronted Henderson's son, who had threatened her. When items started going missing from her uncle's property, Henderson's son had blamed Lily, the fat girl no one would believe anyway. Her uncle had sold her into servitude partly as punishment for the supposed theft and partly to get rid of the burden she represented. "So, I am a thief," Lily finished miserably. "I stole food a few times when my uncle wasn't feeding me enough. And I stole the clothes I'm wearing now because my own were so worn they were barely decent. I'm not the innocent victim you think I am, Ethan. I'm just a fat girl who's made a lot of bad choices." Ethan listened to all of this without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Lily, do you know what I see when I look at you?" She shook her head, afraid to hear the answer. "I see someone who survived a childhood of neglect and emotional abuse. Someone who stood up to a bully even though it put her at risk. Someone who stole food to survive when she was being starved. Someone who had the courage to accept help from a stranger and the resilience to heal from terrible injuries. I see strength, intelligence, and a kind heart despite every reason to be bitter." He cupped her face gently. "Your size is irrelevant to me, Lily. Your supposed bad choices are the choices of someone trying to survive an impossible situation. What matters to me is who you are now and who you can become if given the chance. And I'd like to help you become that person if you'll let me." "Why?" Lily whispered. "Why do you care so much?" "Because finding you reminded me that I'm still alive," Ethan said. "For 5 years, I've been existing, not living, just going through the motions, punishing myself for failing my family. But you," his voice grew rough with emotion, "you've brought life back to this cabin, laughter, warmth, purpose. You've reminded me that there are still people worth saving, still reasons to care. I don't know if that's love or redemption or just temporary madness, but whatever it is, I don't want to lose it." "It's not madness," Lily said, tears streaming down her face. "And I don't want to lose it either. You've given me the first real home I've ever had, Ethan, the first place where I'm valued and respected. I love you. I've loved you almost from the beginning, even though I knew it was probably stupid." "It's not stupid," Ethan interrupted, then kissed her with a passion and tenderness that took her breath away. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling through tears. "So," he said, "we told Henderson we were married. What do you say we make that true?" "Yes," Lily said without hesitation. "Yes, I'll marry you. For real this time. as many times as it takes to make it legal and binding and impossible for anyone to separate us. They married properly a week later, with Reverend Thompson from Carson's Mill officiating and several of Ethan's old friends from his war days serving as witnesses. Lily wore a dress Ethan had commissioned from a talented seamstress, made to fit her perfectly, in a beautiful shade of blue that brought out her eyes. When Ethan slipped the ring onto her finger and spoke his vows with conviction and love, Lily felt the last pieces of shame and worthlessness fall away. She was loved, she was valued, she belonged. Years later, their cabin became known throughout the territory as a place where people in trouble could find help. Ethan returned to practicing medicine, treating injuries and illnesses for anyone who came to their door, regardless of ability to pay. Lily managed their household with efficiency and warmth, and her story, the fat girl who survived a wagon crash and found love with a mountain doctor, became legend in the territory. People would sometimes ask Ethan about the famous command he'd given Lily in that ravine, and he would smile and say, "I told her to spread her legs so I could save her life. And in the process of saving her life, she saved mine." That's the whole story, really. Two broken people who found each other in the wilderness and decided to build something beautiful together. And Lily, hearing these words, would remember that terrible night when she'd been trapped and bleeding and certain she was going to die alone. She'd remember the moment a stranger appeared and gave her a command that should have been mortifying, but was actually the first step toward salvation. She'd remember the gentle hands that fixed her broken body and the kind words that fixed her broken spirit. The command, "Spread your legs," had changed her life, not in the crude way such words usually meant, but in the most profound way possible. It had been the first step toward healing, toward love, toward discovering her own worth. And Lily would forever be grateful to the mountain doctor who had looked at her broken body and seen not a burden, but a person worth saving, who had looked at her size and seen not a flaw, but simply one aspect of a complex, valuable human being. In the end, that was the greatest gift Ethan Stone had given Lily Brennan Stone, not just life, but the understanding that she deserved to live that life fully, proudly, and without apology for taking up space in a world that had always told her she was too much. She was enough. She had always been enough. And now she had a partner who would spend the rest of his life making sure she never forgot that truth.